Yeah, I know that building. I just never
Only knew where the fuck is that? It's so high. It's like little. It's like little. See, next.
We have a little bit of a shorter shir this morning. I have a Hashem bris and Seder Hastati. So I'm like at 6:40, something like that. So Hashem should be for Simchas. We're on page Kuf Samach Aleph. Thanking the Parnas Hashana, sponsoring the Shir Leil Nishmas, Rabbi Dai ben Reb Shimon, Shom Shalom Aliyah, and function of Simcha Achas and Bracha. We were talking about the things in life that get in the way of Simcha. Each one of us has a list. Could be that there's a general one that's the hardest of all. And that's on page Kuf Samach Aleph. Kasher Adam Mispalo Al Ezet Tzarech. The person davens for something that he feels that is very much needed. Mispal Mavakish Al Kol Minei Inyanim. The person davens for different things. Hinei Imu Royesh Leinena. He sees that his tefillas are not being answered. Azai hayetzer menaseh lahachnis oisel asvus. And the Yetzer tries to bring this person into sadness. We've spoken about this many times over the years, and recently, on Shabbos morning, I spoke about it a few weeks ago about the Heichel HaTfilas. There's a place in Shemaim of unanswered tefillas, where those tefillas are kept, and it hurts. The person is a mamin, but one cannot ignore the reality of unanswered tefillas. Individually, collectively, as a people, as Am Yisrael, tefillas that are not answered in the way that we are hoping, that we're davening for, and as a result of that terrible disappointment, we are open game for atzvus, for sadness, the Yitzhara to bring sadness into our lives. And this is particularly true of a person who's very optimistic and very sincere. Those who don't particularly care about davening, even though they might say the words, or they don't really believe in davening, so they rely on other types of hishtadlus to try to get through life. So they're not necessarily that much affected by the unanswered tefillas. They didn't put that much into them. They don't expect to get much out. But for the ones who are really, really working on davening, the ones who really care and are really sincere, and davening is something they believe in, to the extent that one believes in the koach of tefillah, that's the disappointment of the tefillahs not being answered. So this is a very big challenge for Na'ived Hashem. Very, very big challenge for Na'ived Hashem. B'sar Chadas is haderech hanechona l'espalo l'vakish b'derech shel shavach b'kosher v'shavach. Chazal laid out for us a mahalach, a seder of tefillah, which we see in all of our davening. In all of the davening, how we chalal shavach to praise Hashem. So now davening in general. So Psukim de Zimra and Kriya Shema and Shemoneh Esrei, to ask for things in Shemoneh Esrei itself. We begin by praising Hashem. And then we ask, and then we again praise and we thank. By Slichus, we begin with Ashrei before we start screaming and crying and We begin with Ashrei. And this is a Seder Tefillah. Sheva Bakasha, to praise, to ask, and then to praise at the end again. So why did Akadosh Baruch Hu, or why did the Chacham, we'll put it that way, why did the Chacham set up tefillah in such a way? Why did they set up davening in that Seder? That all of davening is in the way of Shabbat, Bakasha Shabbat. We spent quite a bit of time in the Hisbodedus Chabur talking about this as well. That even when a person is doing his own private tefillahs, and it's Hisbodedus, the Seder is Shabbat, and then Bakasha, and then to conclude also with Shabbat. Clearly, we know that Hashem does not need compliments, and that's not what that's about. That He wants He wants us to say nice things about Him. What is that? What's the pneumius of this Seder of Shabbat, Bakasha, and Shabbat? The reason that we begin our davening, we conclude our davening with Shavach, is because the Chachamim wanted, they insisted that we enter into the Simcha of His Elokus, of Hashem's being, our relationship with Him, our connection to Him, His presence in our lives. That we begin that way, and that we end that way, in a connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not just asking, but beginning with Shavach and concluding with Shavach. L'hikonis l'shavach l'simcha b'elkusi yisbarach shemo. L'hargish u'lahamin sha'akol hachi tov v'achi shalom. The point of the Shavach, of the praise, beginning and end, is to surround oneself with that belief, to surround oneself, beginning and end, to close yourself and surround yourself with that belief that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what He's doing, and that He loves us, and everything is Achi Shalom, Achi Tov. That everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu does and will do is L'Tova. I'm given permission, which is a huge thing, to be able to approach Him, and to daven to Him, to ask Him, which itself, we'll touch upon this, which is always the question. So if everything is L'Tova, we've spoken of this also many times, if everything is good, then why should I daven b'chlal? I should just sit back and take whatever He gives me and say thank you, B'shkai. It should all be Shavach, there shouldn't be any Bakash at all. If Hashem wants it to be, hostages at this time, Lo Aleinu, so that's it. So we're supposed to just say, Comes L'Tova. And if Hashem wanted, God forbid, for your mother to be sick, Chalila, so you're supposed to say Gamzel Tov. What's with the davening? What's with the begging and crying and so on? Which is a much bigger question of Bechlal about what davening is. What's the whole tachlis of davening? We're not going to focus on that now, but the point here is that one, through the Shavach at the beginning and the Shavach at the end, the praising and thanking at the beginning and at the end, one surrounds oneself with the Emunah that the beginning and the end of all is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that the beginning and the end of all is that He wants me to speak to Him. I have tremendous kaiches to my tefillah to appeal to Him. But if it doesn't come the way that I wanted, then I praise Him for knowing what's best for me. And I thank Him for listening to my tefillahs and for keeping that tefillah in the great warehouse in the meantime, in the warehouse of tefillahs that could help some other Jew in the world that might be able to blow up in the pocket of some Hamasnik somewhere, some Hezbollahnik somewhere. It could be used at a different time in my life, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren's life, to be kept in that oitzer of tefillahs. But I know that everything that is that you do is the taiva. So we wrap ourselves in that truth, in that belief. And that's why we begin with Shavach and we end with Shavach. So it's tremendous, tremendous, important yesod to think about. With Tovzeh, B'shas HaTfilah, and with that, during the time of Bakashas, when we're asking, during those times of davening, when we're asking whether it's in our 3 tefillas of the day or whether it's in your own personal hisbodedus, that during the time of davening, you can't the chesroinus. Then you could enter into the world of chesroinus, of deficiencies, of lacks, of brokenness, and emptiness. That's as long as you wrap yourself in the wholeness and the shleimus and the belief in the Kadosh Baruch Hu's love and so on. Then in the middle we were given permission to cry and to ask. Look how the days that we're coming into now, the whole Seder of these days in such a way. First is Rosh Hashanah. The whole Rosh Hashanah is only Shavach, is only the shleimus and simcha of being in Hashem's palace. That's the whole Rosh Hashanah is Hamelech. It's Givaldik. And then the way that the days end is with Sukkot and Simchas Torah, which is also all Simcha, Shavach, Kadosh Baruch Hu. In the middle, we have Yom Kippur. Asayas Meikshuv in Yom Kippur. Asayas Meikshuv in Yom Kippur is all bakashas and crying and chesroinus and Rachmanis and to fix and so on and so forth. So this whole period of time is one long Shemoneh Esrei. It's a long Shemoneh Esrei. So Rosh Hashanah is Shavach. Asayas Meikshuv Yom Kippur is bakasha. And then Sukkot Shmini Atzeres is Shavach V'Hidar Hashem. No, that's the whole Seder of this whole long Shemoneh Esrei that we're just entering into. And during that part of davening, or during that time of the year, Kippur, Yom Kippur, in Slovakia, she smiled with chesroinus to ask that the chesroinus should be able to be full. That those things in my life that I'm missing, I feel that I'm missing, in Gashmis and Ruchnis and so on, to ask Hashem for help. To ask for Hashem's help, that He should be my shpia, and to give me all that's missing in my life, all that's lacking in my life. If everything is good, then why am I asking for? Then how is it possible that there are chesroinus? So Torah says that we strengthen our belief that everything is good, but we don't see how it's good. So when we're talking about our chesroinus, whenever we're talking to Hashem about the things in life that we feel are not good, we're not saying that they're not really good. We're just saying that I'm asking that it should be a toiv hanir v'anigla. That I don't see how my mother not being well is good for her, for me, or for the Jewish people. I don't see that. I don't see how hostages sitting in a tunnel for a year, I don't see how that's good for them, for me, for us, for Am Yisrael. I don't see that. That's not toiv hanir v'anigla. Or in Lubavitch Rebbe Yischusim used to say that it should be a toiv which is l'matim asar tvachim, which is here. Here in the world, we believe that Hashem's kindness is we thank Him and everything is good, but it's hard for us. We don't understand. So we're asking, Yoimana Yisrael Kilom Chazda. Yoimana Yisrael means that I should be able to say it. I should be able to say that it's good. I don't see this as good. I could say, Nachem is Gamzul Toiv, I try. I don't know how. It's Kol Madav Rachman is the Tav. Everything is good. But we all know, like Gemara says, that in this world, Sof Kol Sof, we have a bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, Dayan Hamas. And we don't say Hatoiv HaMeitiv. And we can't say that. And even the biggest tzaddik doesn't say that when somebody dies. Even the biggest tzaddik, when he loses somebody, he writes his kriya, and he says, Dayan Hamas. You see, the Chavetz Chaim, when the Chavetz Chaim lost somebody in his life, So Chavetz Chaim wasn't on a Madrega to say, Toiv HaMeitiv, this is good. But the Chassam Sofer couldn't say such a thing, the Baal Shem couldn't say such a thing, that this is good. The Torah says, it's not possible, even for the Chavetz Chaim, the Chassam Sofer, and the Baal Shem Tov, as long as we're in the guf, as long as we're in this world, and even though the biggest mammon, the biggest mammon, it's not possible. There shouldn't be one tiny little molecule. There shouldn't be something in a molecule that's hurting, and it has to accept Hashem's judgment as being the type. And I was not seeing this and saying this is gavaldik. Let's do a rikud. Let's do a rikud. Even though the tzaddikim are not masik, are they able to be makabel the din? And there are stories like that we usually don't relate to very much. But there are stories like that of tzaddikim, especially, God forbid, someone's tzaddik's child dies on Shabbos, and the whole Shabbos he's besimcha, and then after Shabbos, he falls apart. And even on Shabbos, he's mechazik himself. There are stories of big tzaddikim like that. But sof kol sof, we don't see that this is good. How are you supposed to see that this child dying is good? You believe, but you don't see it. So sof kol sof, we're asking Hashem that there should be such a type of good that comes down in such a way that she gam toiv hanir le'ineinu. That I don't have to say whole pshat in this. I don't have to say whole pshat. Why this is. And this is the source of tremendous sadness and pain. All the pshatim that we have to say. I got a call last night. Most likely today I'm going to be speaking to the parents of the soldier that was killed. They're coming, and I said to my wife, I can't to do this again. I can't do this again. To say over pshatlach, you know what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Okay, I have a lot of experience in saying over pshatlach, and I believe in them. I'm not saying stam vertlach. You know, I believe in them, but it's a koiv. It hurts. Sof kol sof, it hurts. Pshatlach. So I could say over this part, say over that part, and chizik, and this one said like that, this one said like that, and in Shemayim, and it's good, and everything is givaldik, and sof kol sof. They walk out of the place, and the kid's not there. And that's pshatlach, which are true. Just like you say, pshat in the Gemara, it's true, but sof kol sof is a koev, it hurts, and that's a source of tremendous sadness. It's a source of tremendous sadness. So a person needs to mechazik himself. So shavach, bakosha, and shavach, to pull yourself out of that sadness, that the world that we see before our eyes shouldn't get you down. It shouldn't bring you to a chalil, place of asos. And that's something which we've seen from the tzaddikim is a gewaldige ischaskus. So we can't really relate to this story how that tzaddik didn't cry the whole Shabbos when his kid died on Shabbos, and the tzaddik had a tish, and he was dancing, and he was a simcha. Shabbos. We can't really understand. We can't relate to that. But what we can relate to more is after Havdalah, when the tzaddik falls to pieces, and then he gets himself, he's mechazik himself afterwards to continue on. That's the way I always get chizik. I don't get chizik from the non-crying tzaddik when his kid died, because that's something that's something from another place. The tzaddik is able to pull that together. It's amazing, but as they say in the street these days, it doesn't work for me personally. I don't get any chizik from that. But when you see that the chizik I always took was from the Klosenberger, how he came out from the war, how my father and my mother came out from the war, and they put themselves together. The chizik of Vayokem Avram Al Pnei Mesa. The chizik of Eokim Ahava. That's the chizik. But that's only if you wrap yourself in that belief, in the shavach, in the chesroinus, in the shavach. And the Jews were able to pull that off. Then and now are the ones who believe in that, and that even though the world that they saw with their eyes, the things that we can't even imagine, things that they saw, and things that people lived through, and especially this past year, things that people saw, and to be able to come back and to give shavach and ha'idayat Hashem, that requires tremendous ischazkus, tremendous amunah. Because there are chesroinus that we see with our eyes, and we daven that we shouldn't have these chesroinus, or they should be fixed and repaired, and then we end with Aleinu l'shavech l'adai nakol. Aleinu l'shavech l'adai nakol. That's how we walk out of shul every day. I mean, some people leave before that. It's not good to leave before that, because it's the main part of the story. Is Aleinu l'shavech l'adai nakol. Lois is gedula goytze gracious. Bayam Darkecha Hashem echad l'shmai echad. That's how we end the davening. V'achar bakashas. That's why after we ask for things, Yoshuv l'shavach. We end. We go back to shavach, to thanking, praising, thanking, Emunah, simcha. V'yamin be'emunah shleima Hashem yizbarach v'adai nena elav, and to believe be'emunah shleima that v'adai Hashem listened to you. V'kibel tefilasa, and he was makabel tefillah. The door wasn't shut. His ears weren't closed, no matter who you are. V'adai nena elav v'kibel tefilasa. V'yamin shekol masha nasa b'pol. To mechazik yourself, to believe that whatever is happening in the world that you see with your eyes, even if it did not end the way that you wanted, it did not have the happy ending in a way that's near a vinigla that you could see. So rak mitok rachma v'yisbarach. It's rachma Hashem. How? So, yeah, a pshat. You could say a pshat. You could come up with some kind of a thing, and stories and vertlach and all kinds of. It's not to say terutzim for Hashem's behavior. You have to remember that it's not chalila. Hashem doesn't need us to for up what He does to excuse Him. It's not that we're making excuses for Him. Chas v'chalila. He doesn't need us to make up excuses. The pshatim are to convince ourselves, not to make excuses for Hashem. It doesn't need us to make excuses. To convince us means to be mechazik ourselves, but not to make excuses. Hashem doesn't need us to make excuses for Him. Even if you didn't get what you were hoping for, it's Rachmei Hashem. Hashem is Toiv, and Hashem is Rachmei v'Chol Maasav. And so, how could it be that this could be good? You could try to come up with a pshat, and to try to see a limus chus, not to help that Hashem should have an excuse, was for your way of thinking, your way of trying to make this into a toiv that is near a vinigla. Sometimes it's just not shaykh. Was the toiv near a vinigla? You just look at pictures of Auschwitz. So you're supposed to say pshat over there. There's toiv near a vinigla. You're supposed to make this into something which is toiv near a vinigla. So there are people that they just figured that it couldn't be that Hashem was there. That can't be. Because ad kedei kach, there's such a hester upon him. You can't see Torah and everything. No, then a person has to go to a deeper place within himself to believe in Hashem's type. It's not near and it's not nigla. And any of the pshatach that you have to try to be a little bit of a nachamish gamzu, and to say gamzula toiva mamish, gamzula toiva. You have different pshat. You always have to be careful. You have to be careful of the pshatach because whenever you say a pshat, you could have a chavus that could slug up your pshat. You understand? That's the way it works with pshatach. In Lamdas, you could always have somebody that slugs you up. In Amuna, you can't be slugged up. So, if you want to say a pshat in the tragedy that happened, so you're the rabbi that gets up and makes a speech about the reason that this house burned down and with all the children is because the lady shaitel was too long, or she didn't cover her head. You want to say a pshat like that? You have a pshat. You had some inside scoop on what's going on in the world. You have to be careful because when you come up with pshat, your chavrusa can slug up your pshat. And there are 6 million ways to slug up a pshat like that. So you have to be very, very careful. More than 6 million ways to slug up that pshat. A chavrusa can always, if you have a smart chavrusa, you can say a fancy piece of lumdis and he'll get you on it. He'll catch you on it. But when it comes to Amuna pshat, that's mimus, nobody can slug up your Amuna. You can't. Even if your chavrusa is the rugged shavu, doesn't make a difference. And your chavrusa can bring 1,000 rayas that this is bad, this is terrible. God doesn't exist. There's no God. He's a terrible God. And you have a chavrusa that's very, very smart, and he'll bring you all kinds of rayas. He'll bring you a whole list of tzaras in the world, of tsunamis in the world and in your life. Your whole life is one big tsunami and one big tzara. You have a very smart chavrusa. He's got all kinds of statistics and all kinds of rayas, and he brings that life is bad. Your life in particular is bad. He brings all kinds of rayas. But if you have Amunah Pshuta, you have Tamimis and Amunah Pshuta, it doesn't slug about. Either you go into some other piece of Torah with him, or you say, you know what, leave me alone. I'm going to find a different chavrusa. I don't need you. Whatever. You're not for me. It's not a shidduch. I'll learn by myself. I don't need chavrusas like you. Person, the lumdis is not to make excuses for Hashem. And if a person thinks that those are to make excuses for Hashem, an excuse, and all kinds of pshatach, somebody smarter than you could slug up. Same thing when it comes to proofs of God's existence. I mentioned before the summer. You remember that some of you might remember 30 years ago when they had the Torah codes. You remember all that stuff? There was some people with computers would find codes in the Torah every 50 words and so on, and it spells Rambam and things like that. And they had all these different codes, and then they made this the main thing to go and give. I remember I told you I was asked to go and to. At that time, this was very popular. The people that were putting it out were very wonderful people. They asked me to come to the seminar, and they gave me a book with all the with all the codes this way, that way, this way, and I should come and I should give a talk at the Shabbaton about the codes, and they gave me the book with all the codes and stuff. I should go. I said, I took the book of codes. I'm not interested. I'm not talking about that. If you want me to come talk, I'll talk about Amunah. I'm not talking about, because that's why you see I'm not so big on the gematrias. Every now and then it's more like a side thing. I believe in gematrias, and they're very, 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 very holy. And it comes from a very deep place, and the tzaddikim, especially some tzaddikim, that they were very big with the gematrias, and it's a huge thing. But I'm just saying, I only saw that as like something that, sometimes it's like after you had a delicious meal and you want to have a little bit of dessert, you're fresh on the dessert. But if you use the gematrias as a way to get Jews with codes and with gematrias and Rosh Hashanah, pshatlach, and you could slug up the codes, and they were slugged up. And it's not the shirish of one's amunah. And the tzaddikim didn't mean those gematrias. They're paparazzi. It's a very deep thing to see the wonders of Hashem's Torah. to see the wonders of Hashem's Torah. And it's a beautiful thing, and it's an exciting thing. But I don't believe, I never believe, again, and not because I don't, again, I repeat, I believe in the Kedusha. We have Gematrias from Chazal also. I believe in the Kedusha, and I believe but I don't believe that Gematrias are going to get you through an experience, not in a tunnel and not in a concentration camp. Not Gematria and not a good shot in the pussy. That's not it. That's why I decided 40 years ago that that's not what I'm going to spend my main time teaching. Because I don't believe that that's right for me. I say people do that. I love that. I respect it. But for me, I believe that my avodah is to try to give ischazkus when it comes to Amunah, and Pshitas and Tmimus, and to that world of Amunah, or the world of Amunah, not Pshatlach. Pshatlach are fun, and they're interesting, they're exciting, and you could spend your whole life saying a pshat and this, a pshat and that, and again, it's the flows out the Torah Hashem, and there are deep wonders in Hashem's Torah. But if Chalila, your kid is lying there in the hospital, and someone tells you should know that the gematria of your son's name is equals or foolish Shleima. Shkaya. You hear that? Yankee, you hear that? The gematria of your name is a foolish Shleima. Get up. It doesn't do it. So therefore, to use that is something which is, again, Paparos L'Chachma. A piece of chocolate cake, something delicious to enjoy, but the shorish of a yid, the pneumius of the yid, the oisius of the neshama, not oisius of gematrias or eshetevis, the oisius of emunah. That's why the word emunah itself is brought down in Sfarim as emunah is aleph, Moneh. Aleph means Hashem. Anochi Hashem Lokech. Aluf Shalom is the Aleph, that was Hashem. And Moneh means, like when you go into a taxi in Eretz Yisrael, and he'll ask you, do you want me to tell you a price? Or should I put it onto the what? Moneh. What do you always say? Put it on the Moneh, right? Just be careful with that. In case you didn't learn that the hard way, just tell the guy, and he'll tell you, and start arguing with you, right? I said, what are you talking about? I'm telling you, 50 shekel is much better than Monesim, Simba Moneh. And sometimes, once maybe 50 years it came out that he gave me a better price because of something with a lot of traffic. I still don't care. And he'll say something like, no, I said, I don't care.
He took you around
to make a point. He'll do that. Right? He wanted to make a point. Put on the meter. The moneh means meter. Moneh means to count. Limnos. Yamenu. Kain hoda. A minion. Limnos. Moneh means to count. Emunah. The word emunah means aleph moneh. Everything my gematria is aleph. I count everything from aleph. From Hashem. Aleph Shalom. Moneh. Then I count it. That's how I count everything in my life. That's what emunah is. Aleph, Moneh. That's the most important word trick. If you like words, you enjoy that kind of stuff, Aleph, Moneh is emunah. To count everything from the Aleph. And if you have that, then all the other Rashi Tevis and Gematrias are beautiful and interesting. It's Limanat Torah. It's nice, but that's not what picks up a person. Pshatlach. So this is the only way for a person to be able to go through life with davening and with simcha is beginning with shavach and ending with shavach. That's Aleph Moneh. Lachein afilo. Right? Shirak hu yedei mashpeh. Only Hashem knows what's really best. Lachein afilu hu lo ro'eh shum shipur. Therefore, even if you don't see any improvement in the situation you're in, you don't see any improvement. Lo yachshav shetfilosol hiskab. Don't think that my tefillah, my davening was ignored. Eli yam b'emunah shleima. Yam b'emunah shleima. Hashem is och oisa achitov. What Hashem does now, It's achitov. That's what means dynamis. Hashem is the true judge. It's achitov. I can't say hatoiv meitiv because it wouldn't, like the Gemara says, it wouldn't be honest. Even though I believe that it's good, but I'm not seeing it with my eyes. So I accept the judgment. And I try to believe that it's achitov. But with our mouths, we can't say hatoiv meitiv in this world before Mashiach comes on a tragedy. We can't say the words. Many times, of course, we believe that what's really tov is not what I was asking for. I was asking for something that's not good for me. You wanted, you're davening and crying and begging that this shidduch should work out, and Hashem knows that this would have been terrible, this shidduch. It looked good to you at the time. Hashem knows that this is not for you. And so on and so forth. With tefillah tifel in yinachim. But the davening is poil something, and the davening is there, and it's in the hechel, in that chamber, and it's poil different things. It has energy, it's doing something, but not according to how you want it, because that's not the type that Hashem knew for you at this time. So therefore, our job is to daven and not to wonder how it was answered, whether it's answered. Eli, you come to the simcha v'lukus. You finish davening, you go, you enter, you come back to the simcha v'lukus. And that's right after Yom Kippur. You go to the sukkah and we get to work. We don't start. Did I get into the good book? Am I not in the good book? What happened to me? What Hoshana Rabbah is, a good fittel Hoshana Rabbah. That's a whole different conversation. What it means a good fittel. But we don't have daigis about this, and Hoshana Rabbah is not Chalila, a sad day. Yeah, we're not going to that. It's a whole time. But the way that we after Yom Kippur right away is the biggest simcha after Yom Kippur right away. Sukkos. Eli comes the simcha b'lukus right into the sukkah. Simcha b'lukus. Did it make davening work? What's going to be this year? If you imagine somebody sitting by a office, doesn't want to come to that office, and ask him what's going on. He said, I don't know. I don't know if Yom Kippur worked. It didn't work. Somebody get over here and pull him into the dance. So there was it was brought to my attention a certain initiative. To say this baram because I respect all the things that Jews are trying to do, but I don't agree with those who are making it personally. I mean, you have a different shot. They're always pshatlach. But I don't agree with the initiative to make. There's some tzaddikim that I don't mean. There's some Jews that want to make an initiative to make every hakafa with the names of soldiers, and it should be that this hakafa should be le'ilu nishmas this soldier. I don't agree with that. And I'm asking. There weren't tragedies in the days of the Chavetz Chaim and the Chassam Sofer and the Baal Shem Tov. And why is it that after the war, how come the Klosenberger, the Bluzer, or Moshe or Yaakov didn't make hakafis, the Ili Nishmas, the 6 million? Because that's not what hakafis are for. That's not what hakafis means. It's with the best intentions, with holy intentions, and these people are very holy people. And I love them. It's not about that. But I need Lomaskim with that. I'm not doing it in Eshkei. It's just not what hakaf is on. And then we're going to have next year. This hakaf is for Fushleim. And we're going to answer the names of all the Chaylim. Hakaf Gimel is a refuah, should be a schus for Fushleim. Who ever heard such a thing? Making up a new Torah. That's not what the hakafis are about. If you learn the pnimis of hakafis, that's not what they're about. They're much more powerful than that. And the hakafis are being downgraded by those who think that this is another way to remember, and they're using it instead of Yizkers to remember. Hakafas are not about having the names of soldiers. Just not. Again, I respect all the people who disagree with me, but it's not what Hakafas are about. To walk around with the names of soldiers. And Gewalt, and these are the Chevra that were killed. And then one of the Hakafas should be for the hostages. One of the hakafas should be for this, one of the hakafas should be that. This is, to me, it's all a way of commercializing and marketing tefillah in a way that was not ever thought of by tzaddikim, and the tzaddikim lived through terrible tragedies. but there's a time to get up. And hakafis is a time when you get up, not when you go down. Not when you go down. It's when you get up, not go down. And understanding with Emunah Pshuta, with Tmimus, that there's Ace Livkos, there's a time to cry, and there's Ace Lirkot and a time to dance. And the secret of life is doing things at the right time. There's a time to cry, and there's a time to dance. And not to mix up those eating. It's very dangerous to mix up those times. Very, very dangerous.
We also have a sorrow on Shalamas and Aliyahs from the Shabbos. We don't put on tzitzis every day and say, today I'm putting on tzitzis, really nishmas this, or Shalamas. Even for any mitzvah.
Yeah, I never heard such a thing. But especially the hakafis, which is the whole climax of Zman Simcha Seinu. The climax of that. If you want to scream out Am Yisrael Chai, and then there are those who want to make a Sefer Torah with a mantle that's to give chizuk and simcha, 100%. We do that every year, even when it wasn't like last Simchas Torah. And last Simchas Torah we were also dancing if we began to hear some of the news. But of course, what Moshe saying is right. Who's such a thing that this is legally? This should be a schus for this. That was every time that I'm in a ma'aseh of simcha, and it happens that Veikas B'Shem, I have to remember the sadness and the misery. Who ever heard of such a thing? That's not the way for a Jew to live. And God forbid after a child dies, that everything the parents are doing the rest of their lives, they're supposed to walk around and saying, I'm doing this now, Li'ilui Nishmas. I'm doing this now, Li'ilui Nishmas. They'll never be able to get up. That's what Hashem wants. They should drown in that sadness and that misery. Get up. But the people that they mean well and they want to do these projects, and then they start to get them out, and then and then if you don't join, like what's the matter? You don't love the soldiers or something? The soldier in Shemayim, in the place that he's in, is saying, no, listen, listen. Please just dance. Please dance. Don't get me involved in this Ilui Nishmas business, this project of Ilui Nishmas. That you could, by Yizkor, I would appreciate a memory. By Yizkor, I would appreciate if you think of me, you say my name, please by Yizkor. But please don't do that by that kofis. In Shemayim, that's not the eating of that kofis. That's just not what we're doing by kofis. It's something else. What's our lo lachshav klal? Lo Eli comes to simcha b'kus v'yehana v'yishani me'etzem zeh shospal Hashem. So to answer the simcha v'yisanigol Hashem mamish just v'yisanigol Hashem, and that place of dveikus, of pashtus, of amunah and tmimus, and shevach v'hadayim, and not anything else. That's all. Now it's hakafos. That's all. Imagine a person saying, I'm now going to say, everybody here, we're going to say Aleinu l'shavech le'ilui nishmas. It's Aleinu l'shavech. And that's what you see now. There's also how to make more than the Meshkachech Yerushalayim. Is there any way we could introduce more misery to the chuppah than the Meshkachech Yerushalayim, which all of us who are over 50 know that there was never any singing of the Meshkachech Yerushalayim when we were growing up. By my chasna, no one said it out loud. There was no song. It's the break the cup. Ge'endig. There's a shia for everything. There's a time for everything. Yes, we're supposed to remember the Churban of Yerushalayim. I don't want to get stuck because I got to go to this bris. But to remember the Churban of Yerushalayim, we also didn't have conscience by the chuppah. Those of us who are a little older remember that the chuppah took 10 minutes. You remember that? We didn't have some guy gargling with a microphone, singing the Chassan Kal's favorite songs, holding us hostages for another hour or something, paying for babysitters, the young couples, right? It's also Naimas. But the Meshkachech Yerushalayim, there was never in the history of Klal Yisrael. And still, if you go to Haimish Chasnas, I for the first time saw in Williamsburg last year that they started to make, there's some about Tefillah that started to make a Meshkachech. But everybody that was older, what's going on here? In Meshkachech Yerushalayim, Yes, we remember at the time of the biggest simcha, we remember Yerushalayim. We don't make speeches about it. We don't have a concert about it. We don't add other things and all kinds of Kabbalah Tehillim and different things. Also, we know better than the tzaddikim from the earlier generations who had tsaros. They lived with tsaros, agat tsaros, and they didn't make by the chassan kal to stand chassan kal when they're under the chuppah, the happiest moment of their life, and then they sing the Shlomo Carlebach's on the way to the gas chambers. You hear that they start to sing from Shlomo Carlebach. What the chassan kal? What are you thinking? They're thinking about Yerushalayim. No, they're not thinking about Yerushalayim. They're thinking about the chasana. What are you thinking? You're thinking about what were the 6 million thinking on the way to the? They're thinking about Yerushalayim. Everything has a time. Everything has a time, and everything has a place. The time of the chasana is a time for simcha, and remember Yerushalayim. It's not a time to have kinas. And you think that you're firmer than the other, that you love Jews more than the other because you're making kinas under the chuppah. It's not the roshna of the chacham and the tzaddikim. Eis livkais, eis lirkos. There's a time to cry, there's a time to dance. This is a time to dance, period. Not a time to cry. Yes, even then, quiet, you break the kais. No. Under the chuppah. Everybody's standing there. You got Nebuch, the Zaidi standing under the chuppah. He doesn't have his walker with him. And he's standing under the chuppah and he's got to listen to this concert for half an hour. This guy singing songs or such a thing. Being a little bit nasty, I'm sorry. But it's all naimas. All kinds of creations that people make that are not that don't come from tzaddikim and have nothing to do with what that moment is about. To be in the moment that's about. Okay, left to go. I hope left to go Sabbath.
Hold on.